All right, and here we go. Another Sunday night, another live episode of Stronger Together, and I'm thrilled to be back here. And as I do to start each one, I always talk about that we are stronger together. And thank you to the sponsors who make this possible, to Bulb and Swivel. Your continued support to bring people on and share their story is amazing. We couldn't do it without you, as well as K-12 leaders who continue to support and bring leaders to the table to share their story, because that's what this is all about. It's really about learning from each other, growing, and experiencing stories from the field. Now, I want to bring on our next guest, and it's somebody I've known. Now, this has been the amazing part of the digital opportunities we've had. I've had multiple conversations with this person. I've been on his podcast. He's attended the Codebreaker Lounge, and we've talked multiple times and never been in the same zip code. So it just shows how we have this power to connect with each other through multiple means. And I've learned a lot from him, both from listening to his podcast and listening to him live. So I want to welcome Dan in now, and I would love for you to share who you are, your work, and look forward to diving in and learning about your collaborative work in the field.
Yeah, well, first, Dr. Matt, thanks for having me on. And I agree. We've done a lot of our communications digitally and virtually, and they've been great communications and conversations. And as I was watching your hype video at the beginning, I was a little jealous. I'm like, I need to get me one of those. But I was actually reflecting on whether or not you and I had met in person, and I think we were in the same zip code briefly at the ASCD conference in Boston.
Okay, the Empower 18 with Colin Powell, the speaker, Joe Biden, and Manny Scott.
I was there. Okay. We probably didn't spend too much time together. Obviously,
all right, we were in the same zip code, though.
We were in the same zip code, and because I saw a couple of pictures in that in that video that you showed. Anyway, thanks for having me on and giving me some time here. My name is Dan Kreiness. I am a instructional coach for digital learning in Connecticut. I've held a lot of roles over the past couple of years, even in education, including as an administrator and assistant principal. But I'm back in a familiar role as an instructional coach now. And what I love about what I do, and this is so much of what I put into my podcast and my Leader of Learning brand too, is getting to inspire growth and transformation in others. That's kind of my tagline, and that's what I really love to do day in and day out in my role, in my school and in my district. So, that's what I enjoy doing, and that's what I enjoy talking about and getting to talk to others about.
Awesome. And now I knew, I've seen your journey, and I know you went from Dan to Dr. Dan. So during our time of knowing each other, tell us where you went to school, what you studied. I'd love to hear a little bit about your work as you moved into that realm of the higher education.
Yeah, sure. Let me briefly take you back even a little bit further. When I first became a full-time instructional coach, I think it was around the year 2016, I sort of started to get this sense that I could impact and potentially inspire more educators than the ones that I was already just working with in my school and in my district. I was in a really small district at the time. I started my career in New York City in a couple of really big schools, and then I moved to a district in Connecticut where the size of the whole district was as big as the first school that I worked at.
Oh boy.
And so that's when I started really getting more connected on social media, and the podcast came along in 2017. But it was in 2016 that I decided to go back for the doctorate as well. And I think the why behind that was simply I wanted to reach the highest level of education, because I really do tout myself and pride myself on being a lifelong learner. And I actually struggled, believe it or not, through my undergraduate years. And after I got my bachelor's degree, and I actually was not in education yet, I didn't think I'd ever go back. And then I ended up getting not one, but two master's degrees. And I don't know, I just got this bug to just keep learning. And I just don't ever want to stop learning sometimes, as cliche or corny as that might sound.
No, not at all.
So I went in 2016, I went back to American College of Education, which is an online only program, where I had already done my educational leadership master's degree. And I had 4.5 really great years
Okay.
of doing a doctorate. I probably could have been done sooner, but there were some sacrifices that I needed to make sure that I was balancing, everything that I had going on career wise and family wise. So, 4.5 years I think is still pretty decent when you talk
Sure.
about how much time it takes to get a doctorate. And I enjoyed it. I really did. And getting to research and learn more about what I'm passionate about, which is how to, like I already said, inspire growth and transformation in others, was 4.5 years well spent. So it was almost 2 years ago now that I defended my dissertation. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I know what it takes to go through it. I know that the defense, no matter how long and how far you've come in education, you sit in front of that review board and you're like that kid doing his final exam, like, oh my gosh, I'm really nervous about it. What would you, I know some friends are going through it now. What would you give as advice for those who are kind of coming up to the end of that process to ensure that they get their work out there?
I mean, I think if you are coming up on the end of it, you probably know how grueling it is. But I think the biggest thing for me that I had to keep in mind through it all was just to really embrace feedback, as hard as it might have been sometimes, whether it's through the coursework, but especially the dissertation process. You're and I haven't I'm under contract to write my own book. I haven't published yet, but I understand a lot about the publishing process, that it's like that too, where you submit your work and then it gets criticized and edited
Oh
and
yeah.
revised by lots of people. Well, maybe not lots of people, but at least a couple of people, editors and publishers, and so it's a lot the same. I only had two committee members when I was going through my dissertation,
Okay.
which I think is a little bit better than most. But
Yeah, I had
still,
three.
they
Yeah.
yeah, they made a lot of suggestions, and I just took their suggestions and I did what they told me to do. It's like you can't be too hard on yourself. And I think pretty early on in the program, I realized that a lot of it was going to be jumping through hoops and really, I was in a fraternity in college, so I guess I'll liken it to like a hazing ritual of
Oh
sorts,
boy.
where you gotta really go through the grueling and the grind and just everything to get to the end and finally defend. And it was a great feeling when I did.
No, absolutely. And the feedback is critical. Same thing. I remember getting my first paper back and it was like, oh, this isn't good. Like, what do you, and it was just a learning process. And in your new role and the role you have now, you must be giving teachers feedback all the time about learning and lessons and share some of your experiences working with teachers and why it's impactful to have a coach and have somebody come in and give you feedback in your role as a digital learning coach or specialist. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
instructional coach. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's not easy, and that's why I think I mentioned a minute ago, when I went through the doctoral program, but really the dissertation process, I wanted to study something that I'm really passionate about, and that was leadership practices, or transformational leadership practices, to be specific, that will inspire growth mindsets in others. And so what I really looked into was how to navigate working with and dealing with resistant teachers, because resistance is real. And I don't say that just because educators, especially ones who have been doing it for a while, tend to just not want to change, but it's been researched. Like it really is real, and there are different types of resistance.
Sure.
So what I really sought to do, and what I literally seek to do every day of my career, is to make teachers feel comfortable and inspire them to continue to learn and grow the same way that they're trying to get their students to. And that just because someone's been doing it 10, 15, 20, 30 years doesn't mean there aren't new things that they can learn and new tools that they can try to make teaching and learning more relevant and more authentic for students in 2022 or whatever year we're in. So
Yeah.
it's not easy. A lot of teachers, and especially, look, I mean, times are tough right now. Obviously, as we record this, we're still going through the pandemic, and
Yeah.
maybe even worse times than even ever over the last couple of years, because with variants and everything and different mandates all over the place. A lot of teacher absences, a lot of teacher coverages, substitute shortages. It's been
Sure.
crazy. But at the end of the day, even though teachers feel like they can't be bothered by some of this, uh, you still have students to teach, and you still have ways in which you need to really reach them, because otherwise it's really going to be for naught if you can't reach them the way that they need to be.
No, that's critical, and having that experience and being in the classroom and giving that feedback is going to help, teachers along the way. And you mentioned, you kind of dropped it in there about publishing a book. So I'd love to share with our viewers, listeners, and share a little bit about what that's going to be about in that process.
It's really much the same as the dissertation, really, which is leadership practices to inspire growth and transformation in others. It's basically taking the work that I've done on the podcast and all the interviews I've done and the great guests that I have had on, and getting to learn from them, and mostly a lot of the research that I did for the dissertation. So almost a year ago now, and I kind of hate to admit that it's been that long, because I really I thought I'd have a lot more work done on the book than I have, but things have set me back over the last 11 or 12 months. But about a year ago now, I contracted with EduMatch to publish this book, and I'm going to do it. I think there have been times over the last 4 or 5 months especially where I've really doubted whether it was ever going to happen, but I'm getting back around to it, and one day, hopefully one day, sooner rather than later, it'll happen.
Yeah, and it's a process. As someone who's put some books out too, you get into a groove, and like you said, life gets in the way sometimes, and you just have to just keep at it. And I know it's going to work. It's going to be great when it comes out. Does it have a title?
It's got a working title,
Okay.
and it's basically, I think it's obvious, Leader of Learning,
Yeah.
leadership practices to inspire growth and transformation in others.
Awesome. And speaking of Leader of Learning, that is a podcast you host. So I'd love for you to share with the listeners, because you definitely want to check it out. It's a great listen. Amazing guests who share their stories as well. Tell us a little bit, not just about the podcast, but you've had, double, maybe triple digits of episodes at this point. You are really out there making an impact. So I'd love to hear about that and share with the listeners and how they can find it.
Yeah, thank you. It's been quite an experience. Like I said, around the year 2016, 2017, when I kind of got that itch to really get connected and really start to try and do at least a small part in inspiring educators from all over. I took not only my knowledge of education and instructional leadership, but also I have a little background in broadcast journalism. I have an undergraduate degree in journalism, and I spent a little bit of time as a freelance sports radio producer. I said, I think podcasting is the way that I can give back and get my voice out there, but really amplify the work of others, and bring on amazing experts. Dr. Matt has been a guest on the show before. It's been a while. It's been a couple of years.
It's been a bit, yeah. It's been a
I think you had just come out with the mentoring book, if I'm not
did,
mistaken.
yeah.
You probably have 2 or 3 since then, but
a couple.
yeah. No, it's been awesome, and like you said, we are at 100. I just tomorrow I'll be releasing episode 127.
I thought so. I knew it was up there. Sure, that's amazing.
It's crazy. It really is. Last year we hit that century mark, and I took some time off earlier this school year, but I'm back at it, and really excited about the work that I'm doing and the guests that I have on. And episode 127, we're over 85,000 downloads of the podcast now, and I guess it's been 4 years. Geez, it's gone quickly, but yeah. So it's been a wild ride, but I really love doing it. I'm putting a little bit more time and effort into YouTube even these days. Getting some videos out there.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I just put a video out the other day on how to play Wordle.
I saw that. Tell us a little about that, because it's got a few views.
It's got 15,000 views as we speak, and the funny thing about that is, before now, by far the most popular video on my channel was the video I had of my doctoral dissertation. I'm gonna give a wave and a hello to my son Evan, who says hi.
Evan, what's up?
Hey Ev. Thanks for watching. And also Shannon and Mel and anybody else who's watching too. I really appreciate your tuning in. So yeah, my dissertation video had been viewed 15,000 times over the last almost 2 years, and I thought that was great. That I was really helping people who were
Right.
going through the process and they're getting to those final stages. I knew how important it was for me to get some inspiration, to watch some other videos on how other people were doing their defenses. But then all of a sudden, I put first a TikTok and now a YouTube video out on how to play Wordle, and that has in 5 days become my number one most viewed video on YouTube very quickly, and it's been really fun to watch that just go up and up and up every single day.
That is awesome. And we kind of jumped off of the podcast for a minute, but I wanted to loop back to tell everyone how to find it.
Yeah, the website's right there. Am I pointing in the right direction? I never know. So down there, lower left-hand side of your computer screen, leaderoflearning.com is the website. The podcast is on any app that you listen to podcasts on, including Apple Podcasts, of course, and Spotify, but even the separate podcast apps that I know some people use. So if you haven't caught up on 126 episodes so far, that is okay. You can start now. If you're catching this on or around the time that it's live, we're about to release episode 127 with Todd Nesloney, amazing educational leader in his own right, and I'd love for you guys to check that one out too. So leaderoflearning.com, the Leader of Learning podcast on any podcast app or player. And then, as I mentioned, my YouTube channel as well. If you search for Dr. Dan Kreiness or Leader of Learning, you'll definitely be able to find me.
Awesome. Well, I want to get you out on this. I ask every guest because I love to learn from others' experiences and I love to hear their thoughts. If I say to you, what does stronger together mean to you in your work? How would you describe that?
I know that she, I'll mention who in a minute. I know she has spoken out about how some people have misused and miscredited this. So I want to make sure that I give credit where credit is due. Dr. Sarah Thomas, when she addressed the ISTE audience in, I believe it was San Antonio, back in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, she used the term PLF. That was the first time I had heard of it. Instead of a professional learning community like a PLC, she said PLF, like a professional learning family. And that's, if you ask me what stronger together mean, to me, it's that family. Whether it's people in your school or district, or people on Twitter or Voxer or any other social media app that educators are using to learn from and with each other. That's what it's about. And I know that we're like the tip of the iceberg, Matt. Like
right?
There are still not nearly as many educators learning from each other, collaborating with one another. So, I do try hard to get more people involved. It's not easy, but to me, that's stronger together. Really learning from and with each other.
Awesome. Well, thanks for making the time for us on this Sunday night. For those of you watching or who watch on the replay, make sure to check out all the work that Dan is doing in all the podcasts and the work and the experience, and get ready for the upcoming book to come out. And what always impresses me is that the individuals I get to chat with go back into the classroom or go back into the school either the next day or shortly after. And that's what you're going to do. Back to work tomorrow. We're practical educators in a practitioner role. And I thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you as well. Thank you for your work, and thanks for giving me a little bit of time here.
Of course. Thank you. And for all of you out there, continue to work together, continue to use connections, continue to collaborate, because where we are in education, we need to have we over me.